In this video, I'm going to step you through creating your own unique wealth plan, because as you've probably heard me say here before, there's no such thing as a cookie cutter, one size fits all investment plan. Everybody is unique. Everybody has unique skills that they can use in growing their wealth. They have different goals, they have different aspirations, they have different time frames, they have different risk tolerances. There is no cookie cutter. So that's what I'm going to share with you in this video. This is a process I take my clients through. It's something that I did myself along with my husband over the past 15 years and what we learned on this sort of crazy adventure. So I'm going to share this with you, take you step by step, and in the end, I'm going to tell you the biggest mistake that most people make in this process. So make sure that you watch it to the very end. If you're excited to create your own wealth plan, your own unique wealth plan that's not cookie cutter, then give me a thumbs up below the video and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you'll see all the videos in this series. Let's start with the very, very first step. It's not about the money, it's not about the math, it's not about stocks, it's not about bonds, it's not about fixed income, all those things where a lot of people start. It's about what it is that you want. So, for example, you may want to be able to retire at a certain age. Perhaps it's 50, perhaps it's 55, 65. You may feel like you never want to retire. You may love working. Everybody is so different. You may feel like you want to work part-time or work a little bit after you retire or do some sort of alternative income streams like we've done instead of doing crossword puzzles, as I like to joke, to keep that revenue coming in, that income, real income, not retirement withdrawals, real income coming in after you retire. Maybe you want to do that for the first 10 years you're retired, and then you want to move more into passive investment. So it's really about thinking about what it is that you want around your money after you retire, quote unquote, retire. Okay? So some areas to look at are in addition to the things I've just mentioned, where you want to live, if you want to be able to live anywhere, or if you have a certain place you feel like you need to live, maybe for family reasons, maybe a place that costs a little bit more, or maybe you feel like you're perfectly happy to go live in a cabin in the woods that's very inexpensive, or move to a less expensive state, or move abroad, or whatever it is. Think about the locale where you want to live. And then think about what kind of time you want to, how you want to spend your time. Are you someone that could play golf every single day, and that's how you think of retirement, and you don't want anything that would possibly interfere with that golf or fishing or whatever it is, schedule? Or are you someone that knows that they enjoy working and they like a little brain stimulation, and that, you think it'll be good for you to continue on working a little bit longer after you officially retire? So that's the very first step. It's allowing yourself. Sometimes I feel like I have to just allow myself to think, what is it that I really and truly want? Because I think, get conditioned to think about what we have to have or settle for. So think about what you really want. Okay, so that's the first step. The very next thing is just to see where you are right now. So how much do first of all, your investments add up to? What's the total liquid assets that you have? You can see, I've written a whole article on how to calculate your net worth on my website at retirecertain.com, where I write about our adventure creating multiple income streams after we stumbled into early retirement around age 50. Know exactly where you are right now. That's the foundation for getting to where you want to be. And then the next thing is figuring out how much risk you want. Okay. This is really important. It's funny how a lot of people sort of settle for risk. They kind of don't think in terms of getting to choose how much risk they have. I think a lot of people feel like they have to be in stocks and or bonds, particularly stocks now that interest rates are so low on fixed income, that I think people feel like I have to settle. I have to have this level of risk in my investment portfolio. But you actually don't. There are a lot of strategies and workarounds, but the main point I want to make now is figure out how much risk you want to have. You actually get to choose how much risk you want. And if this interests you, make sure that you check out this video here, where I talk more about getting to choose your investment risk and how to go about doing that and how to go about calculating about how much risk you might have now. The next thing is to identify your assets. I really, really love this one. Now, you may be thinking, oh, wait a minute, I already updated my net worth in the earlier step. Your assets are so much bigger than your net worth. They're all about your skills. They incorporate not only your investment capital that you have to put into, increasing your wealth as you age, but they also include your skills and your passions and your interests. Let me give you an example. I mentioned that we stumbled into early retirement my husband's a little older than me, so around age 50, without going into too much detail around that. And, we realized at this point that we didn't want to live in a big city. We didn't want to move overseas again, where we had been for a number of years. And I said, what is our biggest asset? What are our assets that we can use if we just sort of look at this from a broader perspective? What can we do to move forward financially instead of staying stuck or instead of depleting our investments over the years to live? And the biggest asset that I saw was my husband's bio. You may be in the same situation. You may have a background that is rich with career, history, employment history. You may have certain skills that are highly, marketable and are very valuable. So I think it's super important for everyone to identify, not just their liquid investments or not just their assets, but also their skill sets, because those skill sets can be used to create your financial future. And that is actually what we ended up really, really capitalizing on, first on a consulting basis, and then we ended up starting an online business where we used that skill set. But not only was it our one of our largest assets, if not our largest, it was something that my husband loved doing, because that was his thing, right? We all have our thing we love doing, and hopefully you've gotten to do yours in your job. So identify what your assets are as far as your skills, your experience, because those things you can use to expand your wealth. Now, sometimes that skill set may just be carried over right into investing. Like my husband's background was trading options for decades for a living. He did that professionally. Some other people may have something like they're really, really great with analysis, or they're really, really great with maintaining properties. They may be steered toward rental properties, or they may love to analyze investments. I love investments, and I love evaluating investments, and I also love writing. So this sort of led me down this path. What are your skills that you have? What is that asset that you can use? Oh, yeah. I want to share with you now the biggest mistake that I see people make, and really that we made starting out on this journey after we left the employment world, and that was simply limited thinking. We are so ingrained to think that the only way we can build wealth is by a job, some sort of employment where someone else, pays us for our career. And then we invest, save as much as we can, right? And then invest in stocks and bonds and hope for that portfolio to grow to amount that will provide us to be able to make retirement withdrawals, right, off of those accounts over the years after we retire. And what happened is we saw, number one, we were way too young to start making retirement withdrawals. Number two is we didn't have enough money to do this for the rest of our life and feel financially secure. But number three is we looked around and we saw all these other people that were doing things that were building wealth in their 50s and beyond. And we had a really big shift to say, wait a minute, if they're doing this, we can do this too. And what else is there? And how do we do this? How do we do this without too much risk? And I'll go into that in another video. It's a long story about how we started out looking at a local business and ended up deciding we didn't want all that risk, and we ended up looking at alternative income streams and gradually ended up, we bought real estate rentals, and then we ended up with online businesses, and I love selling covered calls when the market is right for that. And we have just a number of different income streams going now. But This is sort of how we got going into this, is this simple wealth plan based on the life that we wanted to create. And that's what really, led me to create this for other people, because it's so incredibly doable, even at our age, when we're older and we feel like, we have passed where we could be. We've peaked, right? And so we found that to be, well, it's false. And we found out that it was false from our adventure that we went on. So that's what you'll hear about here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you watch this one next. And I appreciate your watching.